Polls.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we thank you for being here, Barnaby.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take stacks of research, pull out the core insights, and hopefully leave you feeling, well, truly well-informed. Today, we're exploring something pretty radical, this idea that the world you're seeing right now, it might just be a muted version of what's really there.
Yeah, filtered.
Yeah.
Limited by what one researcher calls our familiarized automatic perception.
Exactly. So we're diving deep into these things called awakening experiences, these temporary moments where, bam, that filter just drops.
And your whole perception of reality can shift, fundamentally.
So what's our mission here?
Well, we're leaning on over 15 years of research. A psychologist has been systematically studying this exact thing. We want to look at, what triggers these moments, what's going on underneath neurologically, psychologically.
And maybe most importantly, how can a fleeting experience actually change your life, like long-term?
Right. The lasting impact.
Okay, let's start with the basics then. What is an awakening experience? It's not just like having a really good day, is it?
No, it's much more than that. It's described as an expansion, an intensification of your awareness.
Intensification? How so?
Well, the research really highlights how your surroundings, like the room you're in right now, maybe a tree outside your window, just everyday things, they suddenly become intensely real, vivid, like incredibly intricate and just astonishingly beautiful.
Like reality just got an upgrade, standard def to 8K, something like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy, actually. Is that kind of jump in clarity and depth.
But there's more to it than just seeing things vividly, right? What's the key piece?
Connection. That's the defining feature. This overwhelming sense that your inner self, your consciousness, is somehow merged with everything out there.
So the boundary dissolves between you and the world.
Exactly. That observer-observed distinction just fades away.
Yeah.
And often there's this powerful feeling inside, like a glow of intense well-being.
It's less like finding something new, more like recognizing something that was always there.
Precisely. A sense of recognition, like, this is how things really are. I'm part of all this.
The researcher you mentioned, he actually had an experience like this himself, didn't he?
He did. Describes walking in a valley, climbing a gate, I think, and looking out.
Yeah.
And suddenly the bushes, the clouds, everything just became incredibly vivid, intricate. And he felt totally connected, this deep inner peace.
So it's not just theoretical for him. He knows the feeling.
Right. It grounds the research in that lived reality.
Okay, so if that's the experience, what causes it? How does that filter just drop? You'd think maybe years of meditation, right?
You might think that, and sometimes it is. But the research found 3 main triggers. And honestly, the most common one is, well, it's really surprising.
Go on.
Psychological distress.
Wait, distress, like stress, depression, that kind of thing.
Exactly that. Chronic stress, deep depression, experiencing a major loss, intense psychological turmoil. That accounts for about 1/3 of the experiences studied.
Wow. Okay, that feels paradoxical, almost risky to even talk about. Are we suggesting that suffering is some kind of pathway?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
And no, the research isn't saying misery is good. Absolutely not. It's about the mechanism.
Okay.
The idea is that intense distress can actually destabilize the normal, rigid structures of your ego. The very structures that maintain that familiarized automatic perception.
The filter system.
Right. And when that structure gets shaken up or even breaks down temporarily, it can open a window.
So it's like a shock to the system that bypasses the default settings. Can you give an example from the research?
Yeah, there's this account of a man who was going through immense inner turmoil. Confusion about his sexuality, his marriage was breaking down.
Yeah.
Just intense personal crisis.
Okay.
And right in the middle of all that turbulence, he had this experience where, his words, everything just ceased to be.
Ceased to be.
He lost all sense of time, of himself as a separate entity. Felt, again his words, totally at one with nature, with a massive sense of peace.
So the internal pressure became so great, it kind of forced a break from his normal way of being.
That seems to be the idea. Instead of just collapsing into more anxiety, somehow his consciousness shifted, transcended those usual boundaries.
That is remarkable. Okay, so distress is number one. What's the second trigger? This one feels maybe more intuitive.
It probably is. Around 1/4 of experiences seem to be triggered by nature and stillness.
Ah, okay. Being out in the wild, the quiet.
Yeah. Just the sheer beauty, the quietness of the natural world, it can induce this state.
And there's an example for this too.
Yes, a powerful one. A woman swimming in a lake. She described feeling completely alone but part of everything.
Alone, but part of everything.
Right. And crucially, all her worries, her daily troubles, they just vanished, replaced by this deep peace, this harmony with the lake, the surroundings.
It makes you think of like the romantic poets, Wordsworth or Shelley, seeking that sublime connection in nature.
Absolutely. It taps into that same deep human response to the tranquility and majesty of the natural world.
Okay, so distress, nature. What's the third main trigger?
Spiritual practice? This accounts for a similar number, roughly another quarter, like the nature trigger.
So meditation, things like that.
Meditation's the primary one cited, yeah. But also prayer and certain psychophysical practices like yoga or Tai Chi.
What's the common thread there?
It seems to be the deliberate, sustained cultivation of inner stillness, quieting the mental chatter.
Right. Now, I have to ask about something that always comes up in these discussions. Psychedelics. They seem to dominate conversations about altered states sometimes. What did this research find?
That's a key point. In this particular body of research, looking at spontaneous or naturally occurring experiences in the general population, psychedelics were not a major trigger.
Oh, interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, the researchers suggest that chemically induced states, while profound in their own way, might often lead to perceptual distortions or maybe a sense of dissociation.
Right.
As opposed to that feeling of intense reality and deep connection that really characterizes these awakening experiences. It suggests there might be a subtle but important difference in the quality of the experience itself.
So not all altered states are the same, essentially.
That seems to be the implication here, yes. Phenomenological distinction. So, okay, we have these incredible moments happening, sometimes out of the blue, sometimes through distress or stillness.
Right.
Now, the really fascinating question is, why? What's actually going on? Is it just, brain chemistry, neurons firing weirdly?
Or is it something deeper, a psychological shift in how we process the world?
Exactly. It's that classic science versus psychology tension, in a way.
Let's look at the brain theories first. What are the main neurological explanations people have proposed?
Well, one older idea points towards the temporal lobes. These are parts of the brain involved in memory, language, emotion, quite complex functions.
And
The link comes from reports from some individuals who have temporal lobe epilepsy. Occasionally, they report experiences that sound a bit like these intense feelings, sometimes spiritual or mystical in nature.
Okay, so maybe specific brain region stimulation. What about the feeling of oneness? Is there a brain spot for that?
There's a theory for that too, yeah. It focuses on an area called the superior posterior parietal cortex.
Catchy name. What does it do?
Yeah. Think of it like your brain's navigator and boundary setter. It helps you know where you end and the rest of the world begins. Spatial awareness, sense of self in space.
Okay.
So the theory goes, if this area becomes less active than usual, those boundaries might blur, leading to that sense of oneness, ego dissolution.
Right, it sounds neat, a location for the experience. But you often see this in consciousness research, don't you? Trying to pin it down to one spot.
And it often doesn't quite capture the whole picture. There are critiques of these brain-centric views.
What are they?
Well, first, replication is often an issue. Getting consistent results across studies, having proper control groups, it's tricky.
And the epilepsy link.
It's not straightforward. While some people with temporal lobe epilepsy report these kinds of states, it's actually much more common for them to experience anxiety, maybe disorientation, even hallucinations, not necessarily peace and oneness.
So it's not a clean correlation.
Not really. And other neuroscientists debate whether that parietal cortex area is only about spatial awareness, challenging the idea that just dialing it down automatically equals ego death.
Okay, so if the purely neurological explanation isn't fully convincing, or at least isn't the whole story, where does that leave us? What about the psychological perspective?
This is where it gets really interesting, I think, because the psychological theories offer mechanisms that seem to neatly explain both the stillness triggers and the turmoil triggers.
Two mechanisms. Let's start with the first one. How does stillness, like in nature or meditation, lead to this state?
Okay, so mechanism one relates to how our awareness normally works. We talked about that familiarized automatic perception, right?
Yeah, the energy-saving filter.
Yeah.
Tuning out the familiar.
Exactly. Our brains are incredibly efficient. To save energy, we essentially switch off conscious awareness of things we deem routine or unimportant. The ego acts like a gatekeeper, filtering constantly.
Makes sense for everyday life.
But when you achieve real inner quietness, maybe through deep meditation or just being fully present in nature, you're spending less mental energy maintaining that filter, defending those ego boundaries.
Okay. So that energy isn't being used for filtering anymore.
Right. And the theory suggests that conserved energy then gets sort of released or intensified into awareness itself.
So the awareness becomes more powerful and more vivid because the usual filters are down or less active.
That's the core idea. It overrides the automatic pilot, leading to that hyper-real, detailed perception, more energy-fueling awareness itself.
That makes a lot of sense for the calm triggers. But what about the distress one? How does Mechanism 2 explain psychological turmoil leading to transcendence?
Mechanism 2 is about deconstruction. Intense shock, loss, deep confusion. These things can fundamentally destabilize our normal psychological structures, our usual ways of making sense of the world, our sense of self.
It throws everything up in the air.
Completely. Now, usually that leads to more distress, anxiety, confusion. But occasionally, the theory suggests this breakdown of the familiar mental machinery can actually force a kind of transcendence.
Oh.
Because the ego, that central organizing filter, the me, is temporarily dissolved or knocked offline by the shock. What's left, potentially, is just pure, unfiltered awareness, that sense of connection.
So the system crashes, but sometimes reboots into a more fundamental state.
It's a way to think about it. It's obviously not a guaranteed outcome, and it sounds quite intense, but it provides a psychological pathway for how breakdown could, in some cases, lead to breakthrough.
Okay, this is really getting to the heart of it. But here's the thing that matters most, maybe, for someone listening. If these states are temporary moments, hours maybe, what's the lasting impact? Does anything actually stick once the filter clicks back on?
That's the crucial part. And the research suggests, yes, absolutely. The core takeaway seems to be that these experiences act as a kind of permanent revelation.
A revelation? How so?
Because the experience proves to the person, in a way nothing else can, that their everyday consciousness is limited. It's filtered. It shatters the illusion that the familiarized automatic perception is the only game in town.
So you've glimpsed behind the curtain and you can't unsee that.
Exactly. It reveals this wider, deeper, often more beautiful reality. And that sense of having seen something profoundly true tends to stick. It changes your perspective fundamentally.
And this isn't just a nice feeling. It has real-world effects on people's lives.
Absolutely. Despite often being short-lived, people consistently describe these moments as among the most significant, sometimes the most significant, event of their entire lives. That knowledge doesn't just fade.
You mentioned a specific study looking at 90 experiences with a colleague. What did that find about the after effects?
Yes, that was with Christina Ejido-Sabo. They systematically analyzed the long-term impacts. And the most significant finding was this consistent positive shift in outlook and well-being.
Like what specifically?
Things like an increased trust in life itself, more self-confidence, a noticeable surge in optimism, even for many, a reduced fear of death.
Wow. So it really reframes your whole relationship with existence.
It seems to, yes. Shifting from seeing life maybe as a struggle or something to control, towards seeing existence as fundamentally okay, even benevolent.
There was that quote from an interview that really captured it for me. It's something like, knowing that it's there.
Or, here I should say, is a great liberation. Yes, that captures it perfectly. It's not about adopting a new belief system you have to force yourself to maintain. It's the liberation that comes from knowing, from having experienced, that this deeper reality is accessible. It's right here.
It's evidence you carry within you.
Precisely. It serves as personal evidence.
Yeah.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, while, the research is clear, we can't just snap our fingers and induce these states reliably on command.
That would be quite something.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But what the research strongly suggests is that we can consciously cultivate the conditions that make them much more likely to occur.
So we can prepare the ground, so to speak, improve the odds.
Exactly. We're cultivating the soil, maybe thinning out the weeds of that automatic filter, rather than trying to force the flower to bloom.
And how do we do that, based on the triggers we discussed?
Well, given that so many experiences are linked to that state of inner quietness, relaxation, and letting go of the ego's constant filtering, the practical takeaway is pretty clear.
Cultivate stillness.
Cultivate stillness. Make a genuine commitment to practices like meditation, or prioritize spending regular, meaningful time in nature, really allowing yourself to absorb the quietude.
So by doing that, you're essentially making yourself more available for that filter to drop, for that deeper reality to shine through.
That's the idea. You're practicing letting go of that familiarized, automatic perception, even for short periods. You're increasing the possibility. Okay, that feels like something tangible, something hopeful we can actually work with. The core idea remains. Our normal state is filtered, maybe even muted.
So here's maybe a final thought for you, something to chew on. If the world you see every single day is just that filtered, low-energy version, what else are you missing? Think about something familiar right now, that chair, the pattern on the carpet, a tree outside. What might it look like? How intensely real and connected could it become if you just managed to cultivate that stillness and let that automatic filter drop, even for a moment? Maybe that's something worth exploring, cultivating a bit more stillness. Until next time.